Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us once again for an episode of That Solo Life, the podcast for solo PR pros or anyone really that is working for yourself in PR marketing and beyond. I am Michelle Kane. My company is Voice Matters, and I'm a proud member of Solo PR Pro, which happens to be run by my wonderful co-host, Karen Swim of Words for Hire. Good morning, Karen. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I have been sick for a while, but I'm like 85% back and so happy about that. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm coming off 2 days of expo exhibit type events. So I am kind of happy to be ensconced in my office by myself.
'Tis the season.
'Tis the season. Well, yesterday was the Pennsylvania Conference for Women, which was all kinds of amazing. So, but I'm trying to focus now on, working and doing this fun podcast today. And today we are going to dig into a little bit of a serious topic. It is I believe the AB5 gig worker bill coming up in the California State House, which, doesn't affect those of us outside of California, but it's always great to kind of have our eyes on these things as they come up. And, as always, to be prepared.
Excuse me. Forgive me, listeners, still kind of battling that cold thing. So yeah, I thought this was interesting. And as of, this could be changing, but in September 2019, there was a new California law, AB5, which is also called the gig worker bill. And what it really did is it made it, it added some teeth to independent contractor laws. And so it kind of confirmed a higher standard. And if you don't qualify according to this law, then it makes you an employee. And here's the thing. Mm-hmm. The IRS always had kind of this ABC test. And let me set the stage because I've, worked with companies that are mired in this, and there's so many details about misclassification. So maybe we should kind of set the stage. And so there have always been laws on the books, and there are different states. Every state kind of handles this a little bit different. So wherever you live, it's important to understand your local state laws. And there are federal agencies that cooperate with local. And so if you don't follow the rules or your client doesn't follow the rules, it can have a major impact on your business. And so the basic way that we have always sort of judged that sort of the commonality underlying all of this patchwork of laws and regulations that govern independent contractors is, are you free from the control and direction of an employer? Meaning, are you free to do your work outside of their core business? Are you free to do your work in the way that you would do it? So that means that they can't tell you that you have to work 9 to 5. They can't tell you that you have to work inside of their office and that you work for more than one client. So you have to be open to other work. You have to really be putting yourself forth as an independent who's hireable. So like on your LinkedIn profile, you wouldn't say that you work for one client. You would say that you work for many clients, and you would be engaging in activities to market yourself as such. And so those are, it's like the independence thing. You really are working as an independent. Because there are lots of companies over the years that have used independent contractors as a way to pay them, a smaller fee.
Right.
And it's cheaper than hiring employees. And so they've kind of skirted this, but those people have legitimately only worked for them. So think of places like nail salons that use the independent contractor model, or it's been very popular in construction. And then there's even been movie studios. So what happens is that when these companies have been found out, they have been charged with misclassification, meaning this person is really not an independent contractor. You've misclassified them. They are an employee. And if you are caught doing this and fined, you not only have all these fines, but you have to now pay those independent contractors whatever they would have been due as an employee. So put somebody out of business. So California has come in and said, these gig economy companies like Uber and Lyft, and I think even Amazon Prime. So the companies where, you're a gigger, you don't work for them, but really California's saying, well, yeah, you kind of do. And these people should be protected. They should get the same protections as employees, because now you're paying them not a living wage, but they really are only working for you. Right. They don't have this control. I mean, different than, somebody who buys a taxi medallion. You're not working for a single company. You've bought this medallion, you're in business. But as a, Uber driver, a Lyft driver, yeah, it's your car and it's your insurance and you're responsible for all those costs. But how many ride sharing companies can you really drive for to make a decent living? Right. Usually people do both. But here's where it gets, and I know, I'm sorry, that was like a big backstory.
No, this is good to know, because I even read through it and go, yeah, no, yes, no.
By California doing this, and we know that sometimes big states, California, New York, can set a pace for the rest of the country. I mean, managed care in the healthcare industry started in California. So the reason that we've closely watched and monitored this is because it has such a wide net, and it could color the way that potential clients see even people like us, solo workers, even though we're not gig economy workers, we're small business owners, but it can color how they look at hiring and sourcing talent. Mm-hmm. And that's an issue. Right. Because no company wants to be fined or to have people reclassified as employees when they were really looking to hire independent workers. Now, one way that it's already impacted us is in the media space. So we all do media relations, and now California publications are only allowed to have freelancers write, I believe, please don't quote me on this number, but I believe it's like 35 articles a year.
Oh my goodness. Well,
for a single publication. So let's think about that, as PR people who may need to pitch and do pitch. Right. California freelancers that are working or freelancers that work for California publications, 35 stories a year, which is horrible for them. Horrible when you consider that freelance reporters may write 1,500, 2,000 stories a year. Now you're saying that they can only do 35 for a publication. How many of your stories do you think that you could get placed through a freelancer that works for a California pub? So it severely limits and restricts our access to stories. And I know for me personally, I work with a lot of freelance journalists. A large share of media today are freelancers that work for multiple publications. And Absolutely. So my life just got a little bit harder because of this bill.
Right. Yeah. It's, that it may have the intent of protection, but what they're really doing is limiting freedom to carry out your business in a way.
Yes. And then for us, we often hire independent contractors in our own businesses as well. So it's important for us to now say, okay, let's make sure that we're checking all the boxes and doing, things in the right way so that we don't get fined.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if or how this might play out state to state. California is always a bit ahead of the curve with this type of legislation. So it might be interesting because, it does kind of come down to two, might it be helpful in the way we as solos structure our businesses so that perhaps even the people we work with don't fall prey to this? I don't know. Um, you know, but yeah, the
And,
whole notion of
some of the bigger questions for me are, what I hope would be a positive benefit from all of this. I am definitely all for worker rights and not
absolutely.
being abusive of a system or taking advantage. Um, for me, I would rather have lawmakers trying to look at this, how work is in the 21st century.
Yes.
We are no longer a manufacturing economy,
No.
but so many of our laws and models are really based on that old style system. And so I really kind of feel like this law too is an overreach that puts a Band-Aid on a system that doesn't work for where we are today.
Correct.
So, we have people that work in various capacities. We have some companies that have fully distributed workforces that work in various locations. We have,
right.
Hybrids. Work has changed. It is really different. And I love to see an infrastructure that supports how we work. I love to see the government think about, okay, we have these people, these small business owners and these micro business owners.
Right.
What kind of structure can we create to make it easier for them to work in the way that they choose? I mean,
exactly.
Can we get healthcare that's tailored to us? Can we get better retirement savings options? Can we get a less complicated tax plan?
Right.
Can we have some, guidance about the types of restrictions and qualifications that companies require from us? Because that's all over the map too. I mean, I love to see
right.
something that was a little more supportive rather than trying to, just look at how people are abusing a system.
Right.
That would just, or how about access to capital for small business owners?
Exactly. Things that would actually grow the economy because, there are a lot of us out here and, even looking at the blanket exemptions, the conditional exemptions, the types of work that is covered, do the lawmakers even know what comprises this work in these areas?
They don't.
You're right. How do they know that a graphic designer shouldn't also be lumped in with doctors, dentists, and podiatrists? It's like, has this person been a doctor, a dentist, a podiatrist, or a graphic designer? How do you know? You don't know what goes into our work. And also, I always say, it's like, well, hey, I don't know. I'm a businessman. I'll file my taxes. How about treating me like one every other day of the year?
I agree. And it does feel like, and notice this is not like a party affiliated discussion. This is a broad discussion about, are we focusing on the wrong thing?
Right.
And again, no offense to gig economy workers because they have been taken advantage of, and that does need to be fixed.
Rectified, sure.
But
Absolutely.
There's this whole bigger group of people that you've caught in this net because you don't understand. I mean, for the people who really choose, we're making a conscious choice that how we want to work is we want to be independent.
Right.
Can you help us to do that? Like, why would you limit the number of articles that a California publication can assign to somebody who's choosing? Now, it's different. If you are a journalist and you really would prefer to be an employee with a decent earning, a good living, as you should, I believe that. And I think all PR professionals would stand behind you and have the protections afforded you. Yes, we wholeheartedly support holding companies to the fire to do that, to do right by you.
Absolutely.
But if you're somebody who actually enjoys being a freelance journalist and you like working for different publications and you want to control, you want to write as often as you want to write for publications that pay you well and that fit with, what you like to write about and the topics. I personally think that you should have the ability to do that.
Right.
I think that should be your right as a professional. And the government shouldn't say, we don't really care. It's limited. And if you give them more, then you have to make them employee. because now you've dried up a source of income for these
Exactly.
people that are already struggling. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Louise, what more can we do to journalists? I mean, seriously.
Right. It's like, oh, okay, I can only submit 35 times a year. Oh, great. So now I'm going to have to become an Uber driver. Oh, wait, now that's limited. It's like, come on. And, and as we say, increasingly, our workforce, our economy is trending toward giggers and solos and the micro businesses, just simply due to the nature of how things are progressing. And like you say, that shouldn't be seen as a bad thing. That should be seen, I'm sorry, where's the nod to our good old fashioned American ingenuity? It's happening right before our eyes. And I think they just need to kind of pull their heads up and look around and realize that it's, we're not all going to be, large conglomerates. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Exactly. We love large corporations.
Of course.
We love you, large corporations who hire us.
But, everyone deserves to, have a fair shake and get paid what they're worth. No one's looking to gouge anyone either.
I mean, and we should, in my mind, Uber is its own story. We could do 10 episodes on Uber and the issues that exist there. But we shouldn't use Uber as our baseline to determine who we protect and how we approach this particular problem. And again, I think I just want to emphasize that I'm not anti-labor. I'm not anti-worker. It's the complete opposite of that. I just want us to start to get a little more precise and to really understand that there are different flavors of independent workers and that one law cannot be fairly applied to all of them.
Correct.
And I mean, honestly, I saw this great quote from a gig worker and I loved it. His attitude was, hey, you know what? This forces us to really learn how to be a business and to step it up and to, make that decision. And what I've seen personally from a lot of giggers is that they're just trying to make a living.
Yeah.
And so some turn to gigging, to supplement income. So they may have full-time jobs, but they're supplementing either for a season or permanently because they're not making enough to live. Others were sort of forced into it through circumstances. They lost a business, they lost a job, and, they turned to the gig economy to kind of keep their personal ship going.
Right.
So for people who even consciously made a choice, they made a choice to gig because they like the flexibility, same reasons that we do. They like the flexibility of being able to choose when they work, but they may not have necessarily understood or even thought of themselves as a business.
Right.
And as a business person.
Right.
And so they don't know the back end part. And these gig economy platforms have not taught them about the back end of administration. So they're not thinking about profit and loss numbers. They're not thinking about all of the micro details because essentially they're choosing to take jobs, but the pay is set. So they don't get to negotiate that. There's no scale that, where a driver can decline a ride because it's not enough money, or that you get to set your rates, like a driver's available, this is the rate, which would make it more of a fair system because now when that driver comes, it's not Uber that's determined the per mile rate or however they do that. It's the driver who set the rate. That's a true business who really gets to price their services. They're not exposed to any of that because the platform sort of takes away that part of control. So that part of it I truly do get, but I also think that's some people want that. They want to be that it is sort of the employee model without the employee requirements of being in an office or being at a location or being held to office hours. So in that way, I totally get you, California, for saying those people are, you know what? They're really employees.
Yes.
Even though they get to set their own hours, even though they can turn down jobs, they're employees. They're not getting to set their own rates. They're not getting to all of the choices that you would get as a business person. So I understand that. But that's completely different from, a freelance writer or a micro agency, a micro marketing agency, or a micro social media agency, or a public relations micro agency.
Correct. It's so it's unfortunate because it's evident that their purpose was, to be helpful to the workers, but they're creating a whole slew of other situations for other sets of workers. And, you made an excellent point at the outset of this was, this isn't necessarily about one or two specific companies. It's more about how we work, the type of work, who is in charge of the work. I mean, we have clients, so they're kind of, they're in charge to a degree because we're trying to help them achieve a goal. But like you said, they don't tell me they have to wear khakis 5 days a week or,
yes.
attend.
Oh God. Can you imagine?
No,
I'm sorry.
I don't do khakis.
Total sidetrack. I know khakis. What if I was forced to wear khakis every day? I would die.
Oh no. No. Now I'm getting McDonald's flashbacks when we were in the polyester. The pickle juice burning through. Anyway, sorry. Where was I?
Just say no to khakis, people.
It's not a good look. I used to, and I had a position where I traveled a few times a year, and it was always around the change of season, in advance of a change of season, actually. And women, you can relate to this. So, I had to dig out my spring or summer shoes early, and on top of everything else that was happening. And, the men I traveled with, they gleefully admitted, 2 pair of khakis, 3 shirts, I'm done. Which I would just hiss at them and say, get out of my office. I've got to have the day shoes and the evening shoes and the airport shoes and the what if it rains shoes.
Yes.
Back away from me. Anyway,
so hilarious.
That got off track. But yeah, I mean, it's good to be on the alert about these developments.
Yes.
We say always be ready for whatever might be coming. And because that's just, being a responsible business owner. And I think it's kind of cool that it might be, prodding some of the gig workers to, treat themselves like the business that they are. It just really is. It's disheartening and, unfair. Life is unfair that it's limiting some of these segments, work segments, to be counterproductive and really, ruining the way they're making a living. People have a talent for what they're doing with writing and it's necessary. And now this thing that's supposed to be helpful is being a huge hindrance. So
I agree. I mean, and so we always kind of like to leave you with, our
some hope,
take on things and words of wisdom. And so I would say, don't stop supporting independent contractors.
Right.
And make sure that as an organization that you take a little time to understand how people work. Like, so for solo PR pros, we're business owners, we're running a business, and we want to be treated as such. We have zero desire to be employees, unless, some of us move in and out of employment, and we'll let you know when that time comes. But if we're working as an independent, we want to be treated as an independent worker. So the government is right. You can't impose conditions like asking us to be at your office 3 days a week or working certain hours. You can certainly ask us what our business hours are, but you can't force us into working hours that you want. And we do have other clients, and so be aware of that. But please don't not hire us because you're afraid of these laws. If you've been doing business in the right way and you're treating your service professionals as, professional people, as people that are in business, you're fine. If you are allowing them, and you understand that they do have other clients and they have a business, you're going to be fine even under this new law. So please, don't back away or shy away from hiring people like us because of this law. And, let's support gig economy workers. I use them because I understand that when I utilize these platforms and I hire people, I look at the person who is giving me the service. When my Whole Foods delivery person comes, I want to support that person. And I'm thankful to have the money to be able to be a part of what makes up their income.
Right.
You can do things like, understand tipping policies on the gig economy platforms. And if the tipping policy is not fair, like DoorDash made some changes to their policy, tip your drivers or, gig workers in cash so that the money goes directly to them. You can always do that. And I think that we have to keep, staying aware of the changes and being a part of the solution rather than shying away like, oh, this is just too hard. I'm just not going to use these people at all. I mean, that would be the worst thing that you can do because people like us depend on companies and organizations to make use of our time, talent, and expertise. That's what makes us happy. We're doing this because we want to, because it's the choice we make and we want to work with you. So please don't do that.
Correct. We get into a whole other side topic of, people misinterpreting independent workers as, well, you're just unemployable. That's the problem. It's like, no, we just choose to work in a different fashion that works for us and lights us up and makes us more productive for you, providing you better value. So yeah, hopefully legislation like this, I'm sure they can make amendments to it or changes. So, if you happen to be listening in California, and wouldn't that be nice if we had listeners in California?
Yeah,
we'd love to hear from you. Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts and what's happening on the ground out there with this, and keep us posted. So we thank you for joining us for yet another episode of That Solo Life. We're really valuing that you're giving us your time. And please remember to subscribe to our podcast. Our home base is Podbean, but you can find us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.